What is up, my friends and fellow BusyBees? Today is part 2 of the Ask Me Anything series, and today we are going to be talking all about the business and side hustle related questions that I received from you guys on my Instagram when asked. And if you missed it, last week's episode was all about the more furniture refinishing, furniture makeover related questions that I got. And if you have any questions that do not get answered today and you would like to hear them answered, please feel free to reach out and send those my way. You can send me a DM on Instagram at MelDidItHerself or send me an email. It's mel@meldiditherself.ca because I will be keeping a running list of these to do for future episodes as they come up. So I have 5 different questions for today, and ironically, you're going to get kind of like half of my Furniture Refinishers boot camp today because these are a lot of questions that I cover in that, which is great. Happy to spread the love and share the knowledge. So the first question that came in is, what can you share about registering your business? And now keep in mind, I am located in Canada. I am in Ontario. So the information that I give is going to be specific to where I am located. And the person that asked this question is also located in Ontario. So I feel like it's going to be useful at least for them. And hopefully for some of you, because I do see the stats of who is listening. But I do know a large majority of you are located in other countries. So if you are interested in registering your own business, I can say with near certainty that if you were to Google it, that there will be something on your government's website about how to go about doing this the proper legal way. I always say it's so much easier than you think it is. I feel like so many people put off this part, the getting registered, getting official, because they think it's going to be like a really difficult thing to do, a really expensive thing to do. They think that it's going to mean they're going to pay millions of dollars in taxes and things like that. And it's so much quicker and easier and cheaper than I had anticipated. I have seen no negative repercussions when it comes to filing my personal taxes. So although, as always, this is not legal or financial advice that I'm giving here on the podcast, this is just anecdotally my experience. This is why I always recommend you just go ahead if you're going to be selling your pieces externally and not just keeping the pieces for yourself or for friends and family, that you go ahead and do the official route. Go through the official channels because the effort of it is way smaller than the cost would be if you were to be reported or found out, like showed up in some sort of audit that was done and then you had to like back pay your taxes or whatever. There's probably some sort of penalty involved and it would cost much more if that ended up happening. So, cost benefit analysis, but if you're in Ontario, here's how you go about it. So first you're going to want to go on to ontario.ca. Like I said, it's on the government's website. And first things first, you're going to want to search the Ontario Business Registry. And this is a registry with all officially documented businesses in Ontario. So presumably you have a business name in mind or already in use as you've been unofficial and running your side business or social media showing your furniture makeovers. So go ahead and search the business registry to see if that name is already taken. And then once you confirm that you can go ahead with the name that you have, you're going to want to determine the type of business entity that you want to set up. So for myself personally, I am set up as a sole proprietorship, meaning that the income that I receive from the business is my income, but the assets of the business are also my personal assets and vice versa. And so that does have some added liability in terms of if there were ever any legal implications. Like I said, my assets are the business assets and vice versa, so you can put 2 and 2 together. But it's also a quicker and easier way to set up the business that has less costs associated with it. Now, that's not to say that it's the right setup for you. I recommend you do your own research and talk to a professional because they'll be able to tell you based on your situation, on your business, on your financial situation, what makes most sense for you. And don't take that kind of advice from somebody talking bullshit on a podcast, okay? That's a good life lesson for you. Listen to me, but don't, So a sole proprietorship is one option. You could also have a partnership if you and a friend have come together, or you and a partner, or whatever. Two people have come together to create a business. Or you can register as a corporation, which would involve incorporating the business, and there's some added loops to go through and costs associated with that. But then once you do that, the business assets and income are the business assets and income, and you and your assets are separate. So there's the benefit of that. And then you basically would pay yourself from the corporation a salary or whatever you determined you wanted to do. So determine, based on some thorough research for you and your location, which type of business you would like to set up. And I can say with certainty in Ontario, to register as a sole proprietorship, it's only $60 Canadian, and that registers you for 5 years. So basically, once you register, you have 5 years, and then if you decide at some point during those 5 years that you no longer want to run that business or whatever, you just don't renew it in 5 years' time and you're good to go. So in terms of costs, very minimal, much more minimal, great English, much less than I had anticipated before I looked into it. So I think that is also a surprise to some other people. You know, you sell one side table, you've probably already made a profit of $60 if you're pricing your pieces accordingly. So just take it from your first sale and you've already paid yourself back, you know? And then once you go ahead and register the business, you're going to be given a business identification number, which is a 9-digit number that you will have to hang on to because you'll have to let the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, know that you are a new business, and when you file your taxes, you'll have to have that number handy depending on the way that you're going to file your taxes, which will depend on the type of business that you've registered. So again, you're going to go to the Ontario Business Registry, you're going to search and make sure you can use your name, you're going to register your business. Once you determine the type of business you want to set up, you're going to pay for it, and they will give you a business identification number, and then your business is registered. Congratulations! The next thing you're going to do is you're going to head over to my account on social media or to your email and send me an email or a message and let me know that you just registered your business, because you have no idea how excited that makes me, especially when people say, you know, I had been on the fence, but then you gave me some information about it or whatever, you motivated me to do that thing, and then I decided I'm going to do this. I get so excited, it warms my heart every single time, and I've been known to give out congratulatory Starbucks gift cards, so come over and let me celebrate alongside you, because it's a big deal. It was a bit of an anticlimactic moment when I did it for my business, but it was at like 5 a.m. in the morning before I was starting my government job, and I was like sitting on my couch, and I was like, today is the day that I'm going to register, and I went on and did it, and it was done in like 10 minutes, because I'd already done all the research that I needed to do, and I just like clicked, and it was like, congratulations, you'll receive an email shortly with your business identification number, and I was like, oh, yay me, guess that's done, woohoo! So I recommend finding a way to celebrate it a little bit. And then after you register the business, there are other things that you're going to want to look into, which are things that I go into further in my boot camp as well. But again, talking to professionals and looking into things like, do I need a certain type of insurance, or do I have to change my current insurance? Opening up a bank account and credit card for the business. Are there certain tax filing requirements that I need to be aware of at tax time and those kinds of things? But in terms of registering your business, you are now done. You are a small business owner. Congratulations. Question number 2 was, have you ever thought about expanding your workspace, rental space / storage, she shed, etc.? So yes, I think about it all the time in my daydreams. For anyone that doesn't already know or hasn't heard me complain about it, I work out of a 1-car garage in my home, and while I understand that that is much more space than some people are working with, some people just have a corner of their living room or their basement or something that they are doing their furniture makeovers out of. I also simultaneously can get in that comparison game and see people with like huge warehouse spaces, and I get so envious of it. But the reality is, I'm trying at this point in my business and in my life to keep expenses relatively low and just invest money in things that I really need to at this time, and am focusing on just having high profit margins and having good work-life balance and time management and having systems flowing well. That's kind of been the focus for this year. And a part of that has been utilizing the space that I have as well as I can. So that means clearing out old inventory pieces that have been sitting around forever that realistically are probably a little bit too far gone, and I'm not going to be able to get a great profit on them, and seeing if I can offload those to anyone else that can bring some new life to them, or completing those projects that have been sitting around that are 60% completed, but then I got distracted and moved on to something else, and just making space in the space that I currently have. There was a time when I would just Tetris new pieces that I came across and try and fit in everything and anything and said yes to all the pieces that people were offering me. But now I know to be a little bit more choosy and think about things like, realistically, will this sell? What can I do to it? How much repairs are needed on it? And is it going to be worthwhile for the time invested? So I have a better idea now, and I'm able to utilize my space a little bit better. It's not quite where I want it to be, but especially in the last week or so, I've actually done a really good job of cleaning out like a quarter of the space, which has been great. And I'm getting better at keeping it clean and maintained, and everything kind of has a place now. I know how the workshop works well for me. So I'm actually pretty happy with the space that I have now. There's a couple other storage solutions that I want to do, but ultimately, having more space would be great. If I had space in the backyard to build a she shed, I would, but we live in a townhouse. We have a big, beautiful tree in the backyard, which provides us with lots of privacy, but does cut off some space in the backyard, along with like our patio set and fire table and hot tub and cold plunge, etc. So I don't have the space at this time. So I'm happy with what I have, and I'm just reminding myself not to play that comparison game, because I know that the people who have those large workshop areas and are renting these huge warehouse spaces also have a large bill associated with that is coming out of their pocket. So while they can maybe work on more pieces simultaneously, there is some give and take there. So for the time being, I do not intend on expanding. I do also recognize, though, that it's really lovely to be able to work right out of my home, because when things are drying, or I just want to pop out and do one quick thing in the evening and then can just let it dry during the night, I have the flexibility of doing that, taking the dog for a walk in the day and stuff like that, not having to commute and spend more money on gas and buying coffee and food out and things like that. So being home at this time is kind of more ideal, but again, we'll see about the future. Question number 3 is, how do you keep track of spending/receipts for taxes? And this is, again, something that I deep dive in my bootcamp about, but I will give you a quick overview. And I've actually done a couple podcast episodes talking in pretty good detail about this software. So I will link those in the show notes of this episode, because I don't remember the episode numbers off at the top of my head. But the software that I use to keep track of my spending and receipts for the business is called QuickBooks. I use the self-employed version. I find that it works well for my needs, but there's a couple different types that they offer, and it is a paid service. I believe I pay $14 or $15 a month. I am an affiliate with QuickBooks because I reached out because I love the software so much. They actually changed their program recently, so I don't get like a monetary kickback or anything when people register. They just have like some point system that I haven't really looked into. But regardless, you can get, I believe it's 30% off your first 6 months if you use my link. So I will leave that in the show notes as well. I want you guys to have access to things that I like and I have tried and are tried and true. So with QuickBooks, just really quickly, I use this for tracking all of my income, my expenses, my mileage, and my estimates and invoices that I send out to clients. The reason that I like this system in particular is it has an app version and a desktop version. Usually I'm just working off of my phone in the app. If you want to, you can set up auto mileage tracking. So every time you are driving somewhere, it will track that. And then at the end of the month or whatever interval makes sense for you, you go on and say whether it was for personal or business use. I don't do that, but I remember, because I've now trained myself to go in every time I'm doing something for the business, driving to deliver a piece, going to the thrift store to look for pieces, that kind of thing. I will put that into my QuickBooks app, and then at the end of the year, it gives you your total kilometers or miles driven. I just also really like the way that it classifies all of your expenses, because I'm in Canada, it knows that, and so it puts all of the expense categories that at tax time the CRA is going to ask me to subdivide my expenses by, so I can do that in the app and it will just compile everything. It gives me a little blurb about what each of those categories entails so that I'm doing it properly. And then for sending out invoices and estimates, again, it's just a really easy system. You can add your clients in and their personal details, and it will store that for later to save you some time if you have repeat clients down the line. I just find it to be really seamless. And then at tax time, you can go in, you request an export or whatever from your account, and then it will email you a spreadsheet with everything that you'll need when you go to file your taxes. So again, if you're interested in hearing more, check out the show notes of this episode, and I will link those other episodes where I go into more detail about the system, and I will have that link for you to save some money. But that is what I use for spending and receipts. And is it annoying at first to try and remember to do everything? Yes, but truly, once you make a habit of it, it's much more seamless and integrated into your day to day. So for the first year, it's oh yeah, I forgot to do this, or you're going back and you're having to do a bunch of stuff retroactively. But now I just do things as I go, and it's not a huge thing that's looming at the end of the year. And a new feature that I actually it's not a new feature, I don't think, but I just found out that it is a feature, is if you receive any bills via email. So anytime, for example, my QuickBooks subscription, iTunes or Apple or whatever will send me an email saying, we just charged your account this much for your subscription for this month for QuickBooks. And I can just forward that to the email address. I think it's receipts@quickbooks.com or something like that. And once you have it preset up for your account, so it knows what email to anticipate the receipts from, you can just forward those to that email account, and then it will go straight into your QuickBooks account. And then later on, you just go in and make sure that it grabbed all the information accurately, and you can just sign off on it. So that makes it super easy, because I have a lot of emails that come in from Apple, and if I'm making any online purchases and things like that, and it does the majority of the work for me. So that has been a lovely discovery of mine as of late. Okay, and I have to run soon, so I'm going to try and make these next two answers quick. First one is, do you have anything that doesn't sell? The answer is yes and no. So I definitely have pieces that sit for a very long time and do not sell. It depends on the piece of how long I'm going to let it sit and what I'm going to do in order to try and get it to sell. But the reality is that it depends on where you are, the market needs at that time, how you're marketing your piece, how you are making it searchable for people who are looking for a piece like that. And so there's a lot of factors that can go into whether or not a piece sells. I am now past the point of assuming that it is not selling because I did a bad job. There was definitely a lot of times, especially early on, when I assumed that that was the case, and I have heard plenty of times over that other people also have that assumption about their own work. So if you have a piece that is sitting, just know that it's not because you did a bad job on it. There's just so many other factors that can go into it. But absolutely, I have pieces that sit for so long and then don't sell. I actually today I just finished and listed a piece that I had. I think I got it honestly in maybe 2020 or early 2021, refinished it, had it listed for sale, and it was at the point where it had been listed for so long that now I'm able to get a much better finish, just because I was hand painting at that time and I didn't know all the tricks to get a smooth finish. So although I had done it in more of a rustic kind of shabby chic look, it just didn't look as good as it could. So I just recently was you know what, I'm just going to redo that piece. And that would be my recommendation in the long run, is if it's been sitting for so long and you've done all you can do as it is to get it to sell and it's just not, and you want the space that it is taking up in your home, then I would just recommend redoing it. But I wouldn't redo it too quickly, because I think a lot of people do that and you end up using up so much time, so many materials, and switching it in such a way that maybe it just needs to sit for a while and the right person needs to find it. And the reason I say that is because I have had so many times when pieces have been sitting literally for over a year, and then finally somebody messages me and they're oh my God, I've been looking for something exactly like this, or something to that effect, and they're just so happy that they came across it. And it's usually a piece that I've been should I redo that? You always come back to it every now and then when you're renewing it on Marketplace and stuff like that. And there's been so many times that I've been second guessing myself, and then someone gets it and they're so excited and they're so thankful, and I'm you know what, I made the right decision. So do I have things that don't sell? Yes, but then ultimately no, because I've never really gotten rid of a piece that hasn't sold and then just thrown it out or just gave it away, because I would just end up redoing it, or worst case, reducing the price a little bit so that it's kind of in a different ballpark if I think that, I maybe didn't do the best job or something on it. But again, I don't reduce the costs all that much very quickly because, again, it's just the market for the most part of why it's not selling. Maybe it's in a color that's not really sought after right now, or the people that are searching for that aren't necessarily looking at that time or whatever. Like, there's so many factors. So yes, things don't sell, but then eventually one way or another they do, is my vague answer. And the last question is, how do you take care of your back? Refinishing furniture is hard work. And, why, yes, it is. Doing this full time now, I've definitely seen the impact that this work can have on your body, the good and the bad, because I will say, with so much squatting and lifting and all the stuff that you do day to day, I can definitely see my body improving, becoming more strong, more flexible, having better durability, I don't know. But the thing that I have been doing, kind of because I've been doing this full time now, but also just because I see it having a positive impact on this kind of stuff, is focusing on my body and my strength and aiming to increase it. So because I now work full time from home, I can go to the gym in the off hours, I can try out different fitness classes, and I'm really prioritizing that stuff in order to get myself, my body, my muscles, my strength where I want it to be, and just kind of pushing my limits a little bit and trying out new things to see what I like, what I don't like, what works well, what doesn't work well, and really building up that flexibility, that endurance, and that strength has helped in the work that I'm doing as well. So if you have the ability to, I know that people only have so many hours in a day and have so many responsibilities, but if you're able to work on your body first, I think that's a way that you can really help to make the work have less impact on your body, and for your body to be able to take the impact that the work is going to inevitably have on your body. Because I want to be doing this work long term, I'm trying to prioritize that and be really mindful of that early on, because I know if I was doing this for 10 years, I could end up having some really bad injuries that would last much longer than doing the work ever would. If you start doing funky things with your back and stuff like that, you're going to notice it every single time you go to move any part of your body. And just because you're not refinishing furniture anymore doesn't mean that those injuries are necessarily going to go away. So I think it's smart to be prioritizing that no matter how early you are in your journey or how long you've been doing this. I think it's something that everyone who's doing it should be aware of. And I know for me too, going to the gym has helped with my flexibility as well, because I've been stretching a lot more. You obviously don't have to go to the gym in order to do that, but for me, I know if I'm going to be going into a workout, I need to be stretching before and after, and so I'm prioritizing that time and that space for my body, and I would recommend always doing that before and after refinishing. And I'm also being really aware of my posture and the way that my body is working when I'm working on the furniture. Whenever possible, I'm trying to bring the items up to my eye level versus being hunched over or having to get down to the furniture's level. I now have a quote-unquote workbench, which is actually just a really big old table that was in a study, or a desk, I guess, that was in a study. And it sits around my hip height so that most pieces that I'm working on, if I put it on top of that, they're going to be right around eye level, more or less. So that's been really helpful for my neck and my back. Also just being aware of my posture while I'm doing anything, and especially when lifting or doing that kind of stuff, just being really aware of engaging my core, lifting with my legs and not my back. And just having those really fundamental things at the top of your mind, for me at least, has made a really big difference, because it's stuff that it's so easy to overlook, and I was really overlooking it in life before and early on in my furniture refinishing. But again, when I started thinking long term and, things that I do have control over that I can do to help myself, these were the things that I started to implement, and I've really noticed a return on my time investment. So bringing things up whenever possible. And when I am having to get low and work on, maybe there's a big piece that I can't lift up, so I am having to work on it and I'm working on the bottom of a dresser, for example, I'm going to try and squat down and kind of sit low in like is that called like a frog squat or something? Versus being hunched over, or I'll go on my hands and my knees and be in kind of like a tabletop position versus being hunched over and having that strain on my back. I probably look ridiculous when I'm in the workshop, but in the long run, this is impact that I'm not putting onto my back. And I also have a stool that I try and use anytime I need to be kind of in that mid-height level. I'm sitting on a stool and then either hunched over just a little bit or up just a little bit instead of having to be like at a 90-degree angle with my whole body, if that makes sense. Another thing in terms of moving furniture, whatever you can put on wheels, do that. Get a little dolly, or you can get little kind of feet to put underneath each foot of your furniture to slide it around your workshop. You can get lifting straps to help you if you are going to be lifting a piece on your own, or if you're using a buddy to help you to move pieces around. Whenever possible, obviously try and get the assistance of somebody to lift pieces, especially if they're awkward or bulky or heavy. Asking for help can be hard sometimes, especially when you're in a rush, but if it's a piece that's going to pull your back out versus waiting a couple hours for someone that you live with to get home that can help assist you, go for it. I also have asked, when I'm say buying a piece at the thrift store, asking an employee, asking a fellow customer if they can give you a hand for 2 seconds to lift a piece into your vehicle. People are more than willing to help you out. So whether it feels like a shot to your ego or not, just ask for the help and your back will thank you. But those are the main things that I've found, and truly the thing that has helped the most, but is the thing that wouldn't have came to mind a year and a half ago when I was asked this question, is to just really build up my own fitness, endurance, flexibility, and strength in my body outside of the workshop. And that has been the thing that's helped me to take care of my back. And I do other things too that help in my overall wellness of my back. We do have a hot tub, so I utilize that quite often. Using the hot and cold therapies with the hot tub and the cold plunge is helpful. We have like a massage gun that if I notice anything that's feeling a little bit off, I'll address it at night and then try and stretch it out in the morning. Just not letting those little things like add up over time to something that's much worse and much harder to address. If you feel something in your neck or in your back that's like a little bit extra sore or like feels like it's a little bit off, take the night off from being in the workshop, run yourself a hot bath, relax, let it heal. Make sure you're eating enough protein and things like that too, so that you're able to repair any muscles or anything that you might be working in the workshop that needs to be repaired. Because again, our backs are so important, and while this can be really enjoyable work to do and feel like a fun pastime, if you are going to be injuring your back or some other part of your body in doing so, that's something that's going to impact you for the rest of your life, potentially. So it's easy to overlook and to not think about these things, but I highly recommend you do so, and I'm so glad that you reached out to ask. I'd also recommend talking to experts because, again, this is what I do for myself, but I am in decently good shape. I'm 30 years old. I might have a little bit more forgiveness in my body than someone who's twice my age and is just starting to do this work. So feel free to talk to your doctor, or if you go to the physiotherapist, chiropractor, whatever, talk to them and ask if they have any recommendations. Like, let people know, the professionals in your life that you're accessing services from. Let them know what you do because they probably have some recommendations. All right, that's it for today. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send those in. I really have to run to an appointment, so I am so sorry, but we will not be having a Mel's motivational message for this week, other than you're killing it. Keep on killing it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. And I will catch you guys next week. Bye.